Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Justice Redesigned, where we tackle matters of justice and injustice wherever they lurk, whether it be in politics, education, law enforcement, the courts, even that HOA board you're afraid to make eye contact with. Anyway, I'm Stephen Teskey. I've been a judge, a prosecutor, and a lifelong agitator for fairness in a world that keeps trying to sell us fear at a premium. Now, you might ask, what makes me qualified to talk about justice? Well, I've spent decades on the bench, presided over thousands of cases, from juvenile proceedings involving delinquency matters and child welfare, abuse and neglect, termination of parental rights, all the way to adult cases, both criminal and civil. I've testified before Congress on 4 occasions on matters involving law and policy reform. And in addition to that, I've survived more legislative hearings than a cockroach at a pesticide convention. Anyway, so yeah, I've seen justice up close. And occasionally, very occasionally, I've seen it served. Here on Justice Redesigned, we're going to unpack the policies, the people, and the politics that shape how we treat each other, for better or worse, and hopefully have a laugh or two along the way. If you like what you hear today, you can also get my more detailed written op-ed at my free Substack, Justice Redesigned, at Stephen Teskey, all one word, .substack.com. Just choose the free subscription, because unlike some people, I don't charge extra for the truth. Anyway, for this first episode, I thought it fitting to set the tone with an essay that captures what Justice Redesigned is all about. Balancing without letting fear tip the scales. So here's my take on why fear is the enemy of justice. So it's titled, Balancing the Scales of Justice, Why Fear Can't Tip the Measure of Justice. You've probably noticed that we're living in what I call the age of panic shopping. We hoard fear the way we hoarded toilet paper in 2020. And in both cases, the shelves end up empty of what actually matters. Fear has become a political currency, spent lavishly by those in power who know that nothing makes people more compliant than being afraid. But here's the problem. Fear is heavy. And when you put it on the scales of justice, it tips the whole thing over. Justice, true justice, is supposed to be blind, balanced, and impartial. But fear blinds us further, whispers in our ear that safety can only come at the expense of someone else's rights. You've seen it. Harsher sentences because we're afraid of crime, policies that target immigrants because we're afraid of strangers, school resource officers handcuffing kids because we're afraid of youth. We are terrified of each other and somehow convinced that locking everyone up will keep us safe. Look, I spent 22 years as a judge, and I can tell you fear is lousy at predicting danger. Most of the kids who came before me weren't scary at all. They were just scared. What really keeps the community safe? Well, education, opportunity, trust, things that fear can't buy and usually tries to destroy. If fear worked, America would already be the safest place on earth. Instead, we lead the world in incarceration and still feel less safe than ever. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop letting fear write the laws and let justice find its footing again. So, thanks for tuning in to this first Justice Redesign. If you want to read the full essay and more like it, you can find it free at Justice Redesign on Substack. That's Stephen Teskey, all one word, .substack.com. And remember, justice doesn't have to be scary, but injustice sure should be. See you next time. Thanks.